Welcome back to another video on the Exotic Essentials. My name is Edward. In today's video, I'm doing a reaction. To 10K Productions. How much is Heinz Doofenshmirtz worth? So I watch a couple of his videos. Mainly, he just calculate the net worth of our favorite cartoon characters. So let's get into it. As you can see, I'm making this at night because this is where I do my best work. You know it. Okay, let's start.
We preempt your normal programming with the first annual Telethon of Evil. And now live, because it's evil spelled backwards, your host, Heinz Doofenshmirtz. I want your money, I'm strapped for cash. I need your money, too lazy to get the job. Give me your money, I'm not being funny. Give me your money today. There's 104 days of summer vacation, but way more episodes of Phineas and Ferb somehow. And the vast majority of these episodes feature one Doofenshmirtz and typically at least one kind of innator. While Perry is always there to stop Doofenshmirtz and destroy whatever kind of innator he's created, Doofenshmirtz is always back in action by the next episode. How much is all of this costing him? Is Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated covering their costs, or are they operating in the red? Let's get into it and
Yeah, think about it. Where does he get his money from and all this funding? Because he's not super rich, but he got a daughter named Vanessa, but I think his wife left him. He maybe low-key got money, but we just don't know. And have any of you, remembered the Phineas and Ferb Back to the Fourth Dimension video game? I remember I played that, and then it was a pretty good game. And what do I remember? No, I remember the plot of it was we had to fight the evil Doofenshmirtz, the one who was able to fulfill his dreams of becoming a supervillain, or like the ultimate supervillain, where this regular Heinz Doofenshmirtz really didn't fulfill that dream. Okay, let's continue.
Figure out how much Heinz Doofenshmirtz is worth. And of course, consider this your official spoiler warning for the entirety of Phineas and Ferb, and some of the spin-off shows that have come out of it. And hey, while we're here, comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk about next. It definitely helps the algorithm not hate my channel. And follow me on Twitter at 10kbill to stay up to date on everything I'm working on. Before we really get into it, let's get kind of meta for a second and discuss both the show's general timeline and where exactly Danville, the city the show takes place in, is located. For starters, the entirety of the show takes place over the course of one summer, presumably in the year that the first season aired, 2007. As for the location, it's never outright stated during the show's run, but there are a few hints that might give us the answer, or at least something close. For starters, we see Mount Rushmore several times throughout the series. There's also a point in the show where they zoom in on the US, and it's near the Midwest as well. So while there's no perfect answer for where the show takes place, we'll be estimating it as taking place in South Dakota. And a quick personal note, I'll be switching up between saying Heinz and Doofenshmirtz because for some reason I trip over myself constantly whenever I'm saying Doofenshmirtz. Heinz Doofenshmirtz was...
I'm from the Midwest. Well, I needed to say that because there's not many... Well, no, there's people from the Midwest. Michael Jackson's from Indiana. But not many people care about the Midwest too much, so... Yeah.
Born sometime in 1960 in the fictional country of Drusselstein. His parents never really cared for him, with Heinz even stating at one point that his parents didn't even bother to show up for his birth. Which, sure, yeah, that tracks, I guess. His family was incredibly poor during Heinz's childhood, with Heinz being abandoned at one point and then being forced to act as his family's garden gnome after theirs got repossessed. His parents would also have another son, Roger, who they would come to love much more than Heinz, and who would later become the mayor of Danville, the city where the show takes place. Doofenshmirtz would eventually be abandoned for good by his parents after they tricked him into getting onto a boat heading for America in 1976 when he was 16. Heinz would stay in America and decide to make his own life here. There's a bit of a gap in what we know about this time, but we can fill some of it out with context clues and some things that are mentioned in the show. For instance, we know that sometime in the 80s, Heinz would go to community college, but that he never actually graduated. We also know that at some point in the 80s, he dated Linda, Phineas and Candace's mother, for a brief period. But before all of that, Heinz would be just a kid working part.
Oh, wait. If he didn't go down the wrong path, and if that relationship worked, he would have been Phineas and Ferb's and Candace's dad. I feel as if they would have still. I'm trying to think, have you ever thought about like those parallel like universes, like when you think of yourself, but the opposite of yourself, like if you're a boy in one universe, like you're a girl in the other one, because they have like those. I forgot, like you watch all the time in cartoons, like where they go to a dimension or some type of weird universe where everything is the opposite of where it is in their original timeline or original universe compared to the other one. So I know. So in a parallel universe, if Heinz Doofenshmirtz didn't become evil, he would have married Phineas and Ferb's mother and Candace, and they probably would have been totally different people. Maybe they still would have been like inventors, because that's what they are and that's what he is. But maybe like, I don't know, it'll be completely different from what it is now.
I'm trying to get by, which is a great segue to how we're going to be doing our math. We'll be starting with Heinz's salary, adding in his wife's salary when the two of them are married. More on that in a bit, and we'll take off minor expenses. From there, we'll do tax math and take off any major expenses. While he's still single, we'll be having Doofenshmirtz put away 5% into a bank account, gaining 2% interest annually. I'm only having him put away 5% for now because I don't think he's overly responsible when it comes to money. But many of these numbers will change over the years as Doofenshmirtz's life changes, which we'll address every time there's a major change. We'll work under the assumption that Doofenshmirtz would try to go to college when he turned 18. He's obviously smart enough that he'd be able to get some kind of scholarship to cover his tuition, but he would still need to work at least part-time in order to support himself. I mean, it's a pretty safe assumption that he wouldn't be getting any kind of help from his parents. So if Doofenshmirtz was working 30 hours a week at South Dakota minimum wage in 1980, he would be earning $3,120 per year. We know that Doofenshmirtz never graduated from college, but that he does eventually meet his future wife Charlene while they were in community college. We'll have them marry in 1985. We know that after the two divorce that Charlene is paying alimony. Like, a lot of alimony.
Oh.
Enough to actually keep Heinz from losing his building at one point. In order for her to be paying out that much, she must be making way more money than Doofenshmirtz was. After doing some research into typical alimony payments, we'll be estimating that she's making $500,000 the year they divorce.
You never heard that before. You always hear somehow the husband, he always pays more to the wife. But now, well, in the cartoon, but there definitely could be some situations in real life where the husband is not making as much, and the wife got to pay him. So yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Like when you think about it, but would it be somewhat sad? It would be sad if, like, you get divorced, and then your wife is having to pay you. So that means you don't make enough money to even support yourself. But then it's a positive because you don't have to pay her. She pays you, but the sad reality is you don't make enough money. So you gotta step your game up. Now I was listening to UGK, and it was Bumby. He said you gotta build your name up and step your game up and start pursuing. So we gotta start pursuing people. And me too. We will start pursuing. We gotta claim it.
About in a bit. But that isn't all that would happen in Doofenshmirtz in 85. I'll also have this be the year that he begins working for Professor Destructicon. For this, we'll be moving him up to full-time and earning roughly double South Dakota minimum wage. We also know that they lived in an apartment for a time when they were married. We'll be estimating that cost them around $5,400 per year. From here, we'll fast forward a bit to 1990, when we'll have Heinz and Charlene buy their home. While we don't know exactly what kind of home they buy, we'll work under the assumption that it's the home that we see Charlene in throughout the series. we'll be estimating that they spent the equivalent of $100,000 on the house that year and would be able to pay off the rest throughout the next few years with Charlene's massive salary. We'll also be working under the assumption that with Charlene's influence, they would begin putting away 20% of their income rather than the 5% that Heinz was doing before. In 1991, the couple would give birth to their only child, Vanessa. Because of how much they're making, we'll be having them spend $15,000 per year on their daughter. Coming out of 1991, Heinz and Charlene would have $89,760.11 saved up. We'll have Heinz and Charlene divorcing in 1995.
Okay, wait a sec. While almost split their money in half this year. Okay, they're splitting the money in half. The daughter is going to be 4.
As you said earlier, Heinz ends up being paid alimony by Charlene. While we don't know exactly how much he's getting paid, it's apparently enough to make a skyscraper payment. For our purposes, we'll be estimating that he's getting around $11,506 per month, or $138,072 per year. We'll be having this be a non-modifiable alimony agreement, meaning that even if Heinz begins making more money, it won't change the amount that Charlene is paying out. Both parties would need to consent to this, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise if Heinz got Charlene to agree to this in exchange for letting her keep her house. Despite the divorce, Charlene obviously doesn't hate Heinz, but Heinz seems to hold more of a grudge towards her. And just a reminder that this was before 2018, so any alimony that Heinz would get would be considered taxable. But we'll also have this be the point where Heinz would start his business,
Doofenshmirtz Incorporated!
While we never find out exactly what the business does, I'm working under the assumption that it's actually a tech company. I mean, look at all the devices Doofenshmirtz creates just in his free time. It wouldn't be a jump to assume that he's able to market and sell some of those as well as other inventions. For our purposes, we'll be comparing him to Elon Musk. Obviously, he isn't nearly as well known as Musk, so I'm working under the assumption that his company is obviously not as large or iconic as Tesla or the Boring Company. So, for our estimates, we'll be having Doofenshmirtz making 1/10 of what Elon is making per year. According to the New York Times, Musk made around $2.8 billion in 2018. 1/10 of that would be $280 million, which is what we'll be giving to Doofenshmirtz. Yes, that sounds like a lot, but this is a company that has private planes, blimps, castle. 1/10 of that would be $280 million, which is what we'll be giving to Doofenshmirtz. Yes, that sounds like a lot, but this is a company that has private planes, blimps, castles, a space station, and different office buildings. This is a pretty large company when it comes down to it. So $280 million for their founder/majority.
It's gonna be a lot of expenses. Cause I found out that not expenses. Yeah, expenses. Yeah, I found out like the difference between profit and revenue. So revenue is like how much money you make. So like for example, just how much money your business makes. Cause I watched a video of this girl, she was breaking it down. So like the revenue is just the money you make overall, and profit is what you make after expenses. So it's like the net pay after taxes. So that is your profit. Revenue is just like gross, how much the company made the company made before taxes. Before the company paid taxes, how much did they gross? And then net or profit will be after taxes. I'm taking a financial literacy class. Pay attention.
Isn't that crazy? And of course, we'll be adjusting this number each and every year for inflation. Finally, this year, we'll be adjusting the amount that he's spending on his daughter to half of what it was, $7,500 per year. This is just because I think his wife would be picking up the other half. We'll also once again be changing the amount that Heinz is putting into his bank account. Without Charlene to really rein him in, Heinz would obviously be a bit more sporadic with his spending. Thus, we'll be having him put away 10% of his income each year. From here, we can jump ahead a considerable amount of time to 2007, the year the show takes place. While we see his schemes being foiled time and time again by Perry the Platypus, there really isn't much that would directly affect his bottom line. But there are a few things we'll talk about. One thing is that we do see Doofenshmirtz buy a house this year. A relatively similar home would cost around $223,000, but he mentions that he plans on flipping the house. So we'll be working under the assumption that he manages to actually make around $30,000 off of this endeavor. Second, at the end of the summer, Doofenshmirtz decides to give up on evil and become a high school teacher. He doesn't give up his building or company though.
Yeah.
In fact, in the episode Act Your Age, an episode set in 2017, we see that the building and company are now just called Doofenshmirtz Incorporated.
Doofenshmirtz Incorporated.
So he's obviously still making money off the company while he's teaching. The average salary for a teacher is $61,600 per year, which will be adjusting for inflation. Coming out of 2007, Doofenshmirtz has $76,165,452. In 2009, the alimony that Heinz was getting every year would end because Vanessa would turn 18. So from this point onward, we won't be adding on that amount any longer. And from here, we can fast forward to today, 2020. Assuming nothing major changes, Heinz Doofenshmirtz would be worth $292,117,818.40.
No, go back.
Assuming nothing major changes, Heinz Doofenshmirtz would be worth $292,117,818.40.
I like it.
Which is honestly much, much more than I expected when I began this. And what's really crazy is that he's still a few years out from what would become his greatest creation, time travel.
You know, my name isn't Professor Time, it's Doofenshmirtz. Yeah, we're pretty sure you changed your name for branding purposes.
But anyways, this has been 10K Bill, and thanks for watching. Comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk.
That was a cool video. So he's worth over $2 million. I like that. I like that. That's cool. And wait, what was I watching? Now I was watching something about Tyler Perry and like how he's a billionaire and he owned his own like studio where they film Black Panther, like Tyler Perry Studios, and that's cool. And like Oprah told him, ownership is everything. So, yeah, so we gotta be owners, but then like the one thing about being owners is you don't have the luxury of like, what am I trying to say? Like with other companies, like you don't have the luxury of being an employee that, okay, all you gotta do is just show up, do what you need to do, and get paid and leave. But when you're an owner, much more responsibility in the beginning, where you gotta make sure you do everything yourself. And once you get to a place where you can get others. Yeah. Well, that was nice. Thank you. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Have a good day.